Tonight we begin with a time when the ancient world was crumbling, and one woman tried to hold back the tide of history with little more than her intellect and a voice that seduced empires. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment, like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And let me know in the comments where you're tuning in from and what time it is for you. It's always fascinating to see who's joining us from around the world. Let us travel back in time. Let the noise of your current world fade away, replaced by the heavy rhythmic silence of the ancient past. We are going to the edge of the African continent, where the Nile River meets the Mediterranean Sea. We are entering the city of Alexandria. It is night. The sun, which rules Egypt with a tyrannical heat during the day, has long since surrendered to the dark. The streets of the city, usually a chaotic river of merchants, soldiers and priests, are now empty. The great limestone avenues are silent, save for the occasional gust of wind blowing in from the harbour. But we are not in the streets. We are moving inward, past the guarded gates of the royal quarter, through the courtyards of the Bruchaean Palace complex, and into a building that feels more like a temple than a workplace. We are entering the Great Library. Pause here for a moment. Close your eyes and imagine the air. Step out of the humid, salty night and into this vast, enclosed space. The air here is different. It is dry. It is a curated atmosphere, engineered by architects and scholars to protect the treasures within. It hits the back of your throat, a dryness that tastes of dust and time. The primary scent is overwhelming and distinct. It is the scent of papyrus. It is a smell that is both organic and chemical. It smells of the river reeds from the delta, dried grass and earth, layered with the sharp, resinous tang of cedar oil. The oil is rubbed onto the scrolls to keep the bookworms and silverfish at bay, and its scent hangs in the air like a heavy curtain. It is the perfume of knowledge. In the center of a high-ceilinged alcove, surrounded by walls of shelving, a young woman is sitting alone. This is Cleopatra. She is 18 years old. She is not yet the Golden Queen of legend. She possesses no armies, and her throne is shaky, threatened by siblings who wish her dead. But tonight, she is not fighting. She is studying. She sits at a wide table made of polished Lebanon cedar. The wood is dark, scarred by the knives of generations of scholars who have sat in this very spot. The only light comes from a single oil lamp placed to her left. It is a simple clay vessel, the spout blackened by years of use. The olive oil inside is of a low grade, thick and greenish, and as it burns, it releases a thin ribbon of greasy black smoke that drifts up toward the unseen ceiling. Let us focus on the light. The flame is small, a trembling teardrop of orange in the vast darkness. It illuminates her face, casting deep shadows under her eyes. She looks tired. Her skin is pale, lacking the sun-kissed bronze of the farmers in the fields. This is the pallor of someone who lives indoors, who measures her life in ink and parchment. She shifts in her chair. The furniture is not designed for comfort. It is designed for attention. Beneath the table, her feet rest on the floor. The floor is a masterpiece of tessellated marble, white and grey stone quarried from the mountains and brought here to cool the air. Feel that sensation. The coldness of the stone seeping through the thin leather soles of her sandals. It is a sharp, grounding chill. The cold travels up her ankles, a constant reminder of the physical world that keeps her from drifting into sleep. She presses her toes against the hard marble, using the discomfort to sharpen her focus. The library is quiet, but it is not silent. If you listen closely, you can hear the heartbeat of the city. It is a low, rhythmic vibration. Thrum, thrum, thrum. That is the sea. Miles away, at the entrance to the great harbor, the waves of the Mediterranean are crashing against the base of the Pharos lighthouse, the wonder of the world that guides ships to safety. The lighthouse is massive, a mountain of stone and fire, and the force of the waves hitting its foundation travels through the bedrock of the entire city. In the library, it manifests as a barely perceptible shudder in the floorboards, a reminder that the ocean is always waiting, vast and hungry, just outside the walls. Cleopatra reaches out. Her movement is slow and deliberate. She adjusts the scroll lying open before her. Listen to the sound of the papyrus. It is brittle. As she unrolls it further, the dried fibers protest with a sharp, dry crackle. It sounds like autumn leaves being crushed in a fist. The scroll is old, perhaps 200 years old, written by a mathematician from the time of the first Ptolemy. The edges are frayed, soft as felt, but the center is stiff. She places a bronze weight on the top edge to keep it from curling back up. The scroll wants to close. It wants to keep its secrets. She forces it open. Her eyes track the columns of text. It is Greek, written in a tight, efficient hand. There is no artistry in the penmanship, only data. She is reading about logistics, the grain yields of the Fayum oasis, the taxation rates of copper, the depth of the Nile during the last flood. These are dry facts, but to her they are the skeleton of her kingdom. She reads them with a ferocity that belies the quiet of the room. She is building a mind that can withstand a siege. She reaches for her pen. It is a calamus, a reed stalk cut from the riverbank, dried and sliced to a sharp point. She holds it comfortably, a tool she has used since she was a child. She dips the reed into the inkwell. The inkwell is a heavy block of basalt, cold to the touch. The ink inside is black and viscous. It is a mixture of soot, gum arabic, and water. It smells faintly of burnt wood and vinegar. Watch the ink. It clings to the tip of the reed, a heavy, glossy droplet. She moves her hand to a piece of limestone flake, an ostrakon, which she uses for rough notes. Scritch, scritch, scratch. The sound is distinct and abrasive. The reed bites into the stone flake. There is friction. It is the sound of thought being carved into the physical world. Scritch. Pause. Scritch. The rhythm is hypnotic. It is the only sound in the room, competing with the distant hiss of the oil lamp. Her hands are not the hands of a statue. They are the hands of a worker. Look closely at her fingers. There are stains on her skin. The black ink has seeped into the cuticles of her thumb and forefinger, finding the small ridges of her fingerprints and settling there. It looks like a bruise. In Alexandria, knowledge is a dirty business. It leaves a mark. She rubs her thumb against her middle finger, feeling the dried, tacky texture of the gum arabic. She does not wipe it off. A draft moves through the room. Somewhere, high above, a ventilation shaft has caught the wind. The flame of the lamp flickers, dancing wildly for a moment. The shadows in the room jump and stretch, transforming the rows of pigeonholed scrolls into the mouths of dark caves. For a moment, the smell of the library changes. The draft brings a scent from the harbor. It is the smell of low tide, rotting seaweed, wet rope, fish scales, and the brine of the deep ocean. It is a wet, living smell, crashing into the dry, dead smell of the papyrus. It makes Cleopatra pause. She lifts her head, her neck stiff, cracking slightly as she rotates it. She looks into the darkness beyond the lamp's reach. She is alone here. The librarians have long since gone to their beds. The slaves are asleep in the lower quarters. She is the only thing awake in this cathedral of information. The isolation is heavy. You can feel the weight of the stone ceiling pressing down. You can feel the thousands of scrolls surrounding her, millions of words written by dead men, watching her from their cedar roosts. They are a silent audience. She picks up a cup of water from the table. It is an unglazed clay cup, sweating slightly in the cool air. She takes a sip. The water is tepid. It tastes of the clay, earthy and mineral. It washes the dust of the papyrus from her throat, but the dryness remains. She sets the cup down. A ring of water remains on the polished wood, glistening in the lamplight. She watches it for a moment, watching it begin to evaporate, returning to the dry air. Her eyes are burning. The smoke from the lamp stings. She blinks, heavy, slow blinks that last a second too long. The temptation to rest her head on her arms, to close her eyes and let the sound of the distant waves lull her to sleep, is immense. But she does not sleep. She cannot. She thinks of the palace outside, the viper's nest. She thinks of the flute music her father used to play, the sound echoing through empty halls while the kingdom crumbled. She thinks of her brother, young and easily manipulated, surrounded by advisors who look at her with cold, calculating eyes. She knows that ignorance is a death sentence. If she does not understand the grain shipments, they will starve her. If she does not understand the Roman law, they will outmaneuver her. If she does not understand the history of her own bloodline, she will be just another forgotten name in a scroll that no one reads. So she fights the fatigue. She straightens her back, hearing the small pop of her spine. She takes a deep breath, inhaling the cedar and the dust. It is not a pleasant smell, but it is a safe one. It is the smell of order. She looks back at the text. The Greek letters seem to swim for a moment before snapping back into focus. The yield of the delta is contingent upon the height of the silt. She dips the pen again. The soot swirls in the black liquid. The reed scratches against the stone. Scritch, scratch. Imagine being there with her, standing in the shadows, unseen. You can feel the cool air settling on your skin. You can smell the ancient paper. You can hear the scratching of the pen, a lonely, defiant sound against the silence of history. The night deepens. The oil in the lamp burns lower, the flame shrinking, drawing the circle of light tighter around her. The rest of the world has fallen away. Rome does not exist yet. The wars have not happened. Antony is just a stranger miles away under the same stars. There is only this room. There is only the girl, the scroll, and the discipline of the night. She reads on, turning herself into stone, one sentence at a time. The waves crash against the lighthouse. The city sleeps. And the scent of papyrus fills the air, preserving this moment, suspending it in the dry, quiet dark, forever. Let us leave the library now. We must move from the place of quiet study to the place where power actually lives. We are walking a short distance, perhaps only a few hundred yards through the royal compound, but the atmosphere changes completely. We are entering the Bruchaion, the vast palace complex of the Ptolemies. If the library was a place of dry dust and preservation, the palace is a place of cold stone and echoing emptiness. It is night here too. But while the night in the library felt like a blanket, the night in the palace feels like a shroud. Imagine the scale of it. These are not human-sized rooms. The hallways are wide enough to march a phalanx through. The ceilings are lost in shadow, supported by columns of red granite that are so thick it would take 5 men linking hands to circle one. You feel small here. You feel exposed. We are walking down one of the main corridors. The floor is polished limestone, slick and gleaming under the light of torches set in iron brackets on the walls. Listen to your own footsteps. Click, clack, click, clack. The sound is sharp. It travels. In these halls, there is no such thing as a whisper. Every sound is amplified, bouncing off the hard surfaces, carrying secrets further than you intend. There is a smell here, too. It is distinct from the papyrus. It is the smell of old incense, frankincense and myrrh, burned hours ago to mask the stale air. But underneath the sweetness, there is something else. A faint metallic scent, the smell of bronze armor, of oiled hinges, and perhaps the lingering copper scent of old violence. It is the smell of a fortress pretending to be a home. Stop for a moment. Listen. Drifting through the heavy stone corridors, coming from the private apartments of the king, is a sound. It is high, thin, and haunting. It is the sound of a flute. It is a melody without a structure, a wandering, breathless tune that rises and falls like the wind. This is the music of Ptolemy XII, the father of Cleopatra. The people call him Orleats, the flute player. They say it with a sneer. A king should be holding a sword, they say, not a musical instrument. But here, in the safety of his stone cage, the king plays to drown out the silence. The music is not soothing. It is erratic. It echoes off the marble walls, distorting as it travels, so by the time it reaches us, it sounds like a ghost crying in the dark. It is the soundtrack of a dynasty that is slowly losing its mind. Cleopatra hears it. She is in her own chambers now, a suite of rooms overlooking the harbour. She has returned from the library, her eyes still adjusting from the dim oil lamp to the torchlight of her home. She stands by a window. The shutters are open, letting in the damp sea air. It is a relief after the dry library, but it brings a chill. She wraps a shawl around her shoulders. It is made of linen, dyed a deep indigo. The fabric is cool to the touch, stiff with starch. She is waiting for her evening meal. In the palace, eating is not a simple act of nourishment. It is a ritual of survival. A servant enters. He is a Nubian man, silent, his feet bare on the stone floor. He carries a silver tray. On it, there is a plate of figs, a loaf of emmer wheat bread, and a silver goblet. He places the tray on a low table. He does not leave. He stands back, hands clasped, eyes lowered. He waits. Cleopatra looks at the food. The figs are dark and ripe, their skins splitting to reveal the pink flesh inside. The bread is warm. The wine in the goblet is dark red, almost black in the shadows. She does not eat, not yet. She looks at the servant. He steps forward. This is the taster. It is a job of terrible intimacy. He picks up the goblet. The silver is cold in his hand. Condensation has formed on the outside, making it slippery. He brings it to his lips. Watch his throat. He takes a swallow, then another. He places the goblet back down. Now they wait. The silence in the room stretches. It is a physical wait. The flute music from the distant hallway seems to grow louder, winding its way through the cracks in the door. Toot. We, too. Cleopatra watches the servant's face. She is looking for a bead of sweat, a tremor in the hand, a dilation of the pupils. She is looking for the signs of wolfsbane or hemlock. Poisons are a common language in this house. They are the way arguments are settled. Minutes pass. The servant remains steady. He bows slightly, indicating that the meal is safe. Only then does she sit. She reaches for the goblet. The rim is still wet from the taster's lips. She turns it around, finding a clean spot. She drinks. The wine is watered down. 3 parts water to 1 part wine. It is a thin, sour drink. Strong wine clouds the judgment, and she cannot afford to be drunk. The taste is acidic, sharp on the tongue. It tastes of the resin used to seal the amphorae. It washes down the dust of the library, but it leaves a coldness in the stomach. She breaks the bread. The crust is hard. She chews slowly, mechanically. As she eats, she listens. She is not listening to the flute anymore. She is listening to the corridor outside her door. She knows who is out there. Not just the guards with their heavy, rhythmic pacing. She is thinking of the others, her siblings. Arsinoe is somewhere in this palace, her younger sister. Arsinoe, who smiles with her mouth but never with her eyes. Arsinoe, who has a retinue of advisors whispering into her ear that she would make a better queen. And Ptolemy, her brother, a child still, but a dangerous one. He is a vessel for the ambitions of dark men, generals and eunuchs who want a puppet on the throne. Cleopatra feels their presence through the walls. It is a sensation of being watched. Paranoia in the palace is not a madness. It is a sensory adaptation. It is the ability to feel a shift in the air when a door opens down the hall. It is the ability to smell a betrayal before it happens. She finishes her meal. The room feels too large. The shadows in the corners are too deep. The torch on the wall sputters, casting a spray of sparks onto the stone floor. They fade instantly, turning to cold grey ash. She stands up and walks to the door of her chamber. It is a heavy door, made of oak reinforced with iron bands. It is a door meant to keep the world out. She presses her ear against the wood. The wood is cool and smooth, polished by years of nervous hands checking the lock. She can hear footsteps, sandals slapping against stone. Slap, slap, slap. They are slow, deliberate. They are getting closer. Her heart rate slows. This is the grimy realism of her life. It is not a pounding adrenaline. It is a cold, suspended focus. She holds her breath. The footsteps pause right outside her door. She can hear the breathing of the person on the other side. A slow, rasping exhale. She can smell them through the cracks. The scent of cheap garlic oil. The sweat of someone who has been walking. Is it an assassin sent by her brother? Is it a spy sent by the Romans? Or is it just a guard leaning against the wall, tired of his shift? She does not move. She does not breathe. She is a statue on the other side of the oak. The moment stretches. The flute music in the distance stops abruptly, leaving a ringing silence in the air. Then the footsteps resume. Slap, slap, slap. They move away, fading down the corridor, disappearing into the labyrinth of the palace. Cleopatra exhales. The air leaves her lungs in a long, shaky sigh. She steps back from the door. She checks the lock. A heavy iron bolt that slides into a stone groove. She pushes it home. Clunk. The sound is final. It is the sound of safety, but it is also the sound of a prison cell. She turns back to her room. The window is still open. The sea air is heavier now, damp and salty. She walks to the opening and looks out. Below her, the harbour is black. The water is oily and still, but far out, the beam of the lighthouse cuts through the dark, sweeping over the waves. It is a constant, mechanical reassurance. She touches the stone sill of the window. It is gritty, with sand blown in from the desert. The desert is out there, waiting. The sea is out there, waiting. And inside these walls, the vipers are waiting. She moves to her bed. It is not a soft bed. It is a frame of wood with a mattress stuffed with wool. The sheets are linen, cool and crisp. She lies down, but she does not close the shutters. She wants to hear if anyone climbs the wall. She lies on her back, staring up at the painted ceiling, invisible in the dark. The taste of the watered wine is still in her mouth, sour, metallic. The smell of the old incense still clings to the curtains. The flute begins again, faintly, desperately. Her father playing to the ghosts. Cleopatra closes her eyes. She does not dream of gods or monsters. She dreams of escape. She dreams of silence. but for now she simply listens to the stone house breathing around her and waits for the sun to rise. We are no longer in Alexandria. The marble floors, the cedar shelves, and the rhythmic comfort of the lighthouse beam are gone. We have moved east, crossing the bitter salt lakes and entering the vast, open emptiness of the Syrian desert. The landscape here is hostile. It is a world stripped of color. By day, it is a blinding expanse of beige and white. By night, it is a void of absolute black, capped by a sky so crowded with stars it looks like spilled milk. We are standing at the edge of a military encampment. It is not a glorious sight. There are no golden banners snapping in the wind, no polished armor gleaming in the moonlight. This is an army of exiles, a collection of mercenaries, thieves, and desperate men gathered by a queen who has lost her crown. The first thing you notice here is the wind. In the palace, the wind was muffled by stone walls. Here, there is nothing to stop it. It howls. It tears across the dunes, picking up speed over miles of flat ground, carrying with it a payload of fine, stinging sand. Close your eyes and feel it. It is a biting cold. The desert sun cooks the earth during the day, but as soon as it sets, the heat evaporates into the atmosphere, the temperature plummets. It is a dry, penetrating freeze that seeks out the gaps in your clothes. Cleopatra is sitting inside her command tent. It is not made of silk. It is made of goat hair, woven tight and thick. The fabric is rough, coarse to the touch, and it smells of the animals it came from, a musky, oily scent that never quite goes away. The wind hits the side of the tent. Whoomp, flap, flap, flap. The heavy canvas shudders, straining against the wooden poles. It is a relentless, chaotic drumbeat. Inside, the air is still, but it is cold. She is wrapped in layers of heavy wool. The elegance of the Alexandrian court dress has been replaced by the practicality of survival. She wears a thick cloak dyed a dull red, pulled tight around her shoulders. Her hands, once stained with ink, are now chapped from the dry air. The skin on her knuckles is cracked and raw. In the center of the tent there is a fire, but it is not a fire of cedar logs or sweet-smelling olive wood. In the treeless desert, fuel is scavenged. They are burning dried camel dung. Smell the smoke. It is acrid. It has a sharp, pungent tang that catches in the back of the throat. It is a thick, yellow-grey smoke that does not rise beautifully like incense. It hangs low, clinging to the wool of the tent, clinging to her hair. It is the smell of poverty. It is the smell of desperation. Cleopatra sits on a rug spread over the sand. There is no furniture here. The ground is hard and uneven. She is eating her evening meal. Focus on the food. There are no silver platters, no tasters, no watered wine. She holds a piece of flatbread that was baked on a hot stone hours ago. It is tough and leathery. She tears a piece off, she chews, and then she feels it. The grit. Sand is the true ruler of this place. It is inescapable. It gets into the water skins, it gets into the bedding, and it gets into the dough of the bread. Every bite has a texture to it, a faint crunch between the molars. It is the sensation of the earth grinding down your teeth. She swallows it. She does not complain. To complain would be to show weakness, and in a camp of mercenaries, weakness is a death sentence. Outside the tent, the camp is alive. Listen to the sounds of the army. It is a low, murmuring beast. You can hear the coughing of men huddled around their own fires. You can hear the groaning of camels, their knees popping as they settle into the sand for the night. But under those organic sounds, there is a rhythmic, metallic noise. Shink, shink, shink. It is the sound of a whetstone sliding against iron. Men are sharpening their swords. These are not Egyptian patriots. They are Galatians, Syrians, Nabateans, men who fight for coin. They are sharpening their tools because they expect to use them. They are preparing to kill for her, but only as long as she can pay them. Cleopatra listens to the scraping of the stone. It is a comforting sound in a way. It is the sound of violence being organized. She looks down at the map spread out on the rug before her. It is a simple drawing on a tanned sheepskin, held down at the corners by rocks to keep it from curling. Her finger traces the line of the border. Pelusium. That is the gateway. Beyond that fortress lies the fertile mud of the Nile, the grain, the gold, and her brother's army. Her brother, Ptolemy XIII, is waiting for her there with 20,000 soldiers. She has perhaps half that number. She traces the distance, a day's march, maybe two. She reaches for a water skin. It is made of a goat's stomach, sealed with pitch. She unorks it and takes a drink. The water is warm and tastes of the leather container, a flat, animal taste. It is nothing like the cool, clay-stored water of the library. She wipes her mouth with the back of her hand. The wind gusts again, harder this time. The tent poles creak, groaning under the strain. Sand hisses against the outside of the canvas like 1,000 tiny snakes. She feels the isolation. In the palace, she was surrounded by enemies, but she was home. Here, she is an alien. The desert does not care about her bloodline. It does not care that she speaks 7 languages. It only cares if she can stay warm and find water. She shifts her weight. The cold of the ground is seeping through the rug. Her legs are stiff. She misses the marble. She misses the bath. But she pushes the thought away. She picks up a small dagger she keeps by her side. It is a Roman blade, short and efficient. She tests the edge with her thumb. It is sharp. She looks at the fire. The dung patty glows orange, crumbling into grey ash. The smoke stings her eyes, making them water. She blinks the tears away. This is the bottom. She is a queen living like a nomad. She is a scholar living among brutes. She is a goddess sleeping in the dirt. But there is a clarity here. The library taught her the theory of war. The desert is teaching her the reality of it. The reality is grit. It is sand in your teeth. It is the smell of shit burning to keep you warm. It is the sound of metal scraping on stone in the dark. She stabs the dagger into the sand next to the map. It sinks in easily. Outside, a sentry shouts something in a rough dialect. A dog barks. The wind howls, drowning them both out. Cleopatra pulls the red cloak tighter. She lies down on the rug, curling her body to preserve heat. She listens to the flap of the tent. She listens to the shink of the swords. She does not sleep deeply. She sleeps like a wolf, one ear turned toward the wind, waiting for the shift in the air that signals the dawn. Tomorrow, they march to the edge of the world. Tomorrow, she tries to take it all back. We have left the desert. The biting wind and the smell of camel dung are behind us. We are back in Alexandria, but we are not entering through the front gate with trumpets blaring. We are sneaking in through the back door. It is dusk. The sun is setting over the Mediterranean, casting long purple shadows across the water. A small fishing boat bobs in the chop of the great harbour. It is a nondescript vessel, the kind used to haul nets and baskets of sardines. It smells of fish, guts, and tar. Inside the boat, crouched low beneath the gunwales to avoid the gaze of the Roman patrols, is Cleopatra. She has returned, but she is not a queen right now. She is contraband. She is with one man, Apollodorus the Sicilian. He is her loyal servant, a man of immense physical strength and silent discretion. The plan is desperate. The palace is locked down. Julius Caesar, the Roman general who has occupied her city, is inside. Her brother's guards control every entrance. If she is seen, she dies. If she is recognized, she dies. She must become invisible. She looks at the object on the floor of the boat. Legend will call it an ornate Persian carpet. History is often kinder than reality. In truth, it is likely a bedding sack, a heavy roll of coarse fabric used to bundle mattresses and linens. It is thick, sturdy, and unassuming. It looks like laundry. Apollodorus opens the sack. The sensory experience shifts violently now. We are moving from the open air to absolute confinement. Cleopatra steps into the fabric. She lies down. The material is rough against her skin. It smells of raw wool, that distinct, oily animal scent of sheep. It smells of dust and storage. Apollodorus begins to roll. Imagine the sensation. The world tilts. The sky disappears. The last strip of purple twilight is swallowed by the heavy wool. Darkness wraps around her, tight and suffocating. She is bound. Not by ropes, but by the weight of the fabric. Her arms are pinned to her sides. Her legs are pressed together. She cannot move. She cannot see. She is a mummy, wrapped while still alive. The claustrophobia is instant. The air inside the roll is hot and stagnant. It is a small pocket of oxygen that she must ration. She forces her breathing to slow down. Inhale. Exhale. The wool scratches her cheek. A loose thread tickles her nose, but she cannot scratch it. She feels the boat rock. Then a shift in gravity. She is being lifted. Apollodorus has hoisted the bundle onto his shoulder. He is a strong man, but she is a dead weight. She feels the pressure of his shoulder digging into her ribs through the layers of cloth. She feels the heat of his body transferring to hers. Now she is entirely dependent on sound and motion. There is the splash of water. Apollodorus stepping from the boat to the dock. The surface changes. Thud, thud, thud. Heavy footsteps on wood. Then the crunch of gravel. She is upside down, or perhaps sideways. It is hard to tell. Blood rushes to her head. The world is a swaying, rhythmic darkness. Step, jostle, step, jostle. She hears voices, Roman voices. Halt, state your business. The voice is muffled, as if coming from underwater. It is a guard. The tone is bored, aggressive. She holds her breath. Inside the wool cocoon, her heart is hammering against her ribs. Thump, 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 thump. It sounds deafening to her. She fears the guard can hear it, a drum beat radiating through the carpet. Apollodorus speaks. His voice reverberates through his chest, and because her ear is pressed against the bundle which rests on him, she feels his voice as a vibration more than she hears the words. A gift for the general. From the city merchants. Bedding. Linens. A pause. The smell of the wool is overwhelming. It is hot. Sweat begins to trickle down her temple, stinging her eye. She blinks, her eyelashes brushing against the rough fabric. Go on. The footsteps resume. Clack, clack, clack. Stone floors now. They are inside the palace. The acoustic changes. The air outside the bundle feels cooler. She can sense the temperature drop through the layers. The echoes are sharper. They are in the great corridors of the Bruchaillon. The same corridors she walked as a child. She counts the steps. She tries to map the route in her mind. A left turn, a flight of stairs. She tilts backward, her weight shifting, sliding slightly inside the roll. She braces her core to stop from tumbling out. Then, a stop. More voices. These are different, smoother. Latin spoken with an aristocratic drawl. What is this? A present for Caesar, directly from the harbour. Leave it here. My orders are to deliver it to his feet. It is fragile. A laugh. A heavy wooden door creaks open. The hinges groan. Apollodorus walks forward. The swaying stops. Then the sensation of falling. She is being lowered. It is not a gentle placement. Apollodorus is exhausted. He drops the end of the bundle. Whump! She hits the floor hard. The impact jars her teeth. The floor is marble. She recognizes the unyielding hardness of it. She is lying horizontal now. The blood begins to flow back into her limbs. She waits. She hears footsteps approaching, slowly, measured. The sound of soft leather sandals on stone. "Well, unroll it." The voice is dry, commanding. It is a voice used to giving orders that result in the deaths of thousands. This is Julius Caesar. Apollodorus's hands are on the fabric. He pushes. The sensory shift is blinding. The wool rolls back. 1 turn, 2 turns. Suddenly, light. After the suffocating darkness, the lamplight of the room feels like an explosion. It sears her retinas. She squeezes her eyes shut, then forces them open. The air hits her skin. It is cool, fresh air, smelling of lavender and polished wood. The smell of the wool vanishes, replaced by the scent of power. She pushes herself up. Her hair is messy, static, charged from the fabric. Her dress is wrinkled. Her skin is flushed from the heat of the sack. She is disheveled. She looks up. Standing above her is a man. He is older than she expected. His hairline is receding, combed forward in a vain attempt to hide it. His face is lined with the deep creases of a man who has spent 20 years at war. He looks tired. He looks leathery. He is staring at her. He expected a rug. He got a girl. There is a moment of absolute silence. The only sound is the settling of the dust motes in the air. Cleopatra breathes. She fills her lungs with the cool air of the palace. She stands up. Her limbs are stiff, but she moves with a fluidity that denies the indignity of her arrival. She smooths the wrinkles of her dress. She looks at the Roman general. She does not bow. She does not apologize. She smiles. It is a small, dangerous smile. The grimy realism of the sack, the sweat, the dust, the fear, evaporates. In its place, a different kind of tension fills the room. The tension of history pivoting on a single moment. Caesar looks at the bundle on the floor, then back at her. The corner of his mouth twitches. The smell of the room, lavender, oil, and the faint metallic tang of the armor standing in the corner becomes the scent of her victory. She is in. The walls of the fortress have been breached, not by a battering ram, but by a laundry sack. She steps off the coarse fabric and onto the marble. The cool stone greets her feet like an old friend. She is home. We have left the stone confines of the palace. We have left the claustrophobia of the carpet and the shadows of the library. We are now in the open, under the full, unblinking gaze of the Egyptian sun. We are on the water. But this is not the ocean. This is the Nile. It is a brown, muscular god of a river, moving with a deceptive sluggishness toward the sea. It smells of life and death in equal measure. The rich, fertile scent of black silt, rotting vegetation, and wet clay. We are standing on the deck of a ship, but to call it a ship is an insult. It is a floating city. This is the Thalamigos, the royal barge of the Ptolemies. It is 300 feet long, a monstrosity of cedar and gold that displaces the water with an arrogant heaviness. The sun is at its zenith. The light is blinding, bouncing off the water and the polished bronze fittings of the ship. But where we stand, it is cool. We are beneath a massive canopy of purple silk. The fabric is stretched tight on cedar frames, creating a permanent twilight on the deck. The sun beats down on the silk, heating it, but underneath, the air is shaded and still. Cleopatra is reclining on a couch of ivory and ebony. Beside her is Caesar. Look at the contrast. Caesar is a man of leather and iron. He is a Roman soldier who is used to sleeping on the ground, eating hardtack, and marching 20 miles a day. He sits stiffly, his eyes scanning the riverbanks, calculating, assessing. He sees the grain fields and sees tax revenue. He sees the width of the river and sees supply lines. Cleopatra sees something else. She sees the theatre. Close your eyes and listen to the engine of this vessel. It is not the wind, it is muscle. Below the gilded decks, down in the sweating dark of the hull, there are banks of oarsmen, hundreds of them. You cannot see them, but you can feel them. Creak, splash, creak, splash. It is a hypnotic, synchronized rhythm. The wood of the oars groans against the thole-pins. The blades hit the water with a heavy, wet slap, pushing the river backward. The entire ship vibrates with this pulse. It is a heartbeat of human effort, driving the Golden Palace upstream against the current. On the deck, the sensory experience is one of overwhelming excess. Servants move silently across the floor. The floor is not wood, it is covered in thick wool carpets to muffle the sound of footsteps. They bring trays of food, smell the feast. It is heavy and rich. There are ducks roasting on spits, their skin crisp and dripping with fat. There is the sweet, cloying scent of honey cakes. There are bowls of lotus flowers, their perfume drifting through the air, masking the muddy scent of the river. Caesar reaches for a grape. His hands are rough, scarred from years of gripping a sword hilt. He eats it mechanically. He is overwhelmed. Rome has wealth, yes, but Rome is a city of brick and marble. This is a dreamscape. Cleopatra watches him. She is wearing linen so fine it is almost translucent, catching the breeze that is generated by the ship's movement. She knows exactly what she is doing. She is not just showing him a river, she is showing him that she is not merely a queen, she is a divinity. They pass a village on the riverbank. Imagine the view from the shore. The peasants, knee-deep in the mud, look up to see a mountain of gold and purple gliding past. They do not see a boat. They see a hallucination. They drop to their knees in the silt. On the barge, the heat of the day begins to break. The afternoon stretches out, long and lazy. The soundscape shifts. The chatter of the servants dies down. The only sounds are the rhythmic splash of the oars and the occasional cry of a waterfowl in the reeds, a lonely, piercing shriek that echoes across the water. Let us move to the railing. Look down at the water. The Nile is opaque. It is a swirling soup of brown and green. Near the banks, you can see the logs drifting in the current, but they are not logs. A crocodile slides off a mud bank. Slap. It disappears without a ripple. The menace is always there, just beneath the surface. The beauty of Egypt is a veneer. Underneath, there are teeth. Caesar stands up and walks to the edge. He leans on the railing. The wood is warm under his hands. He looks south toward the heart of Africa. He is thinking of conquest. He is thinking of how far this river goes. Cleopatra joins him. She smells of kaifi, a complex Egyptian perfume made of frankincense, myrrh, pine resin, and cinnamon. It is a spicy, warm scent that envelops her. She points to the horizon. She speaks of the pharaohs who built the temples they are passing. She speaks of the gods who live in the water. Her voice is low, melodic, weaving a net around him. She is turning the landscape into a story, and herself into the protagonist. The sun begins to dip lower. The light turns golden, then amber, then a bruised purple. The heat lifts from the river, replaced by a sudden, cooling breeze. This is the grimy realism of the river at dusk. The insects come out. Clouds of gnats hover over the water. The smell of the river changes. It becomes danker, smellier, the scent of wet mud cooling down. Servants rush to light torches. The firelight flickers against the purple silk. The gold leaf on the columns gleams. The oarsmen are tired now. You can hear the change in the rhythm. It is slower. The creak of the wood is louder, more strained. The ship moves with a heavy, lethargic grace. Dinner is cleared away. The smell of the roast duck is replaced by the smell of wine. Rich, dark, mariotic wine, heavy with alcohol. Caesar looks at her in the torchlight. He is no longer calculating tax revenues. The Roman armor has melted away. He is just a man, drifting on a golden barge, deep in a land that feels older than time. The night settles in completely. The banks of the river disappear into darkness. There is only the ship, a bubble of light and luxury floating in a void. Cleopatra sits back on her ivory couch. She listens to the water lapping against the hull. Lap, lap, lap. It is a gentle, soothing sound. She has taken the conqueror and made him a tourist. She has taken the wolf and fed him lotus flowers. The ship groans softly as it turns, following a bend in the river. The oars splash. The stars come out, reflected in the black mirror of the Nile, and the cruise continues, drifting further south, deeper into the dream, further away from the reality of Rome. We have left the golden dream of the Nile. We have crossed the Mediterranean Sea. We have arrived in the center of the world, Rome. But this is not the white marble city of the imagination. Not yet. This is the Rome of the Republic, a sprawling, chaotic organism made of brick, timber, and smoke. Step off the ship and onto the dock at Ostia, then travel up the Tiber to the city itself. The first thing that hits you is the noise. Alexandria had the rhythmic sound of the sea. Rome has the roar of humanity. It is a constant grinding din. Wooden cartwheels rumbling over cobblestones, the shouting of merchants selling salted fish, the hammering of blacksmiths. It is a city that buzzes with an aggressive, restless energy. Cleopatra is staying across the river in the Trastevere district. She is housed in Julius Caesar's private villa, a sprawling estate surrounded by gardens. It is a golden cage. Let us stand in the garden with her. It is late afternoon. The light here is different than in Egypt. It is softer, less relentless, filtering through the leaves of the plane trees and the cypresses. But the air is heavy. In Alexandria, the wind scrubbed the city clean every day. Here, the air sits. It smells of wood smoke, thousands of cooking fires burning in the insula, the crowded apartment blocks that stack up like termites' nests across the river. It smells of unwashed bodies, of animals, and of garum, the fermented fish sauce that permeates every street corner. Cleopatra walks along a gravel path. She is wearing Roman dress now, or a version of it, to try and blend in. But the fabric feels wrong. It is heavy Italian wool, dyed in muted colours. It scratches slightly against her skin. It lacks the cool, fluid silkiness of Egyptian linen. It feels like a costume. She stops at a stone balustrade and looks across the Tiber River toward the city centre. The view is a dense forest of terracotta roofs. Smoke rises in grey columns, merging into a haze that hangs over the 7 hills. She can see the Forum, the beating heart of Roman politics. It looks small from here, a cluttered valley of temples and basilicas where men in white togas scream at each other until their throats are raw. She is safe in this villa, but she is not welcome. To the Romans, she is a scandal. She is the Egyptian woman. She is the sorceress who enslaved their general. She can feel their eyes. Even when she is alone in the garden, she feels watched. The slaves in the villa are polite, but their Latin is sharp and quick. They whisper when she passes. Regina. The word means queen, but in Rome it is a dirty word. Rome expelled its kings centuries ago. To call someone a king or queen here is an accusation. She sits on a stone bench. The stone is rougher here, a volcanic tuff that feels porous under her hand. She misses the water. The Tiber is not the Nile. It is narrow, swift and yellowish grey, churning with the mud of the mountains. It does not flood with clockwork precision. It floods with angry unpredictability. Caesar visits her, but he is different here. In Egypt, on the barge, he was a lover and a tourist. Here, he is a politician. He arrives with a retinue of secretaries. He smells of the Senate House, of dust and parchment and stress. He is distracted. He talks of land reform, of the calendar, of the Parthian campaign. He has placed a statue of her in the temple of Venus Genetrix, a golden statue of Cleopatra standing next to the goddess of Rome. It is an act of supreme arrogance. Cleopatra thinks of that statue now. She imagines the cold metal version of herself standing in the dark temple, surrounded by Roman matrons who look at it with hatred. She picks up a fallen leaf from the bench. It is brown and brittle. Autumn is coming. In Egypt, the seasons are subtle. Here, the world dies visibly. The leaves turn colour and fall. The air grows cold and damp. She pulls her shawl tighter. The dampness here gets into the bones. It is a clammy cold that brings aches to the joints. From the street outside the villa walls, a sound erupts. A cheer? A riot? It is hard to tell in Rome. The crowd is a fickle beast. One moment they are cheering Caesar's triumph. The next, they are rioting over the price of bread. She drops the leaf. She stands up. She is the wealthiest woman in the world. She has a son by the most powerful man on earth. And yet, standing here in this garden, smelling the wood smoke and the river mud, she has never felt more isolated. She walks back toward the villa. The gravel crunches loudly under her sandals. Crunch, crunch, crunch. The sun dips below the Janiculum hill. The shadows lengthen instantly, swallowing the garden. The noise of the city does not stop. It merely changes pitch, becoming deeper, more ominous as the taverns fill up. She enters the villa. The door closes behind her, muffling the roar of Rome, but not silencing it. It is always there, a low vibration in the floor, a reminder that she is a guest in the House of Wolves. The date is the 15th of March, the Ides. We are back in the villa across the Tiber. The day began like any other grey, damp Roman spring day. The sky was the colour of a bruised plum. But now, as the afternoon stretches on, the atmosphere has curdled. Cleopatra is standing in the atrium of the villa. It is a space designed for peace, an open courtyard with a small fountain in the centre. Listen to the water. Trickle. Splash. Trickle. It is a weak, faltering sound. She is waiting. Caesar was meant to visit her this evening before his departure for the Parthian campaign. His trunks are packed. The legions are ready. But he is not coming. The first warning is not a messenger. It is the sound of the city itself. Rome is a loud city, as we have established. It usually roars with a steady industrial hum of commerce and construction. But now, listen closely. The pitch has changed. From across the river, from the direction of the Forum and the Theatre of Pompey, a new sound rises. It is not the rumble of wheels. It is a human sound. It is a collective scream. It sounds like a hive of bees that has been kicked over. It is the sound of thousands of people shouting in confusion, in anger, in terror. Wah! It drifts over the water, distorted by the wind, rising and falling like a siren. Cleopatra freezes. She knows that sound. She heard it in Alexandria when the mob turned on her father. It is the sound of a regime collapsing. The gates of the villa burst open. It is not a guard. It is a slave. his chest heaving, his tunic stained with sweat despite the chill in the air. He falls to his knees. He does not need to speak. His terror tells the story. "Dead," he gasps. "They are all dead. Caesar, stabbed, in the Senate." The words hang in the air, heavy and impossible. Cleopatra does not scream. She does not faint. The grimy realism of her life takes over instantly. She goes cold. A physical chill starts in her stomach and spreads to her fingertips. Her vision sharpens. She looks at the statue of herself in the corner of the room. It looks ridiculous now. A golden lie. She turns to her servants. Her voice is low, stripping away all emotion. "Pack everything now." The villa explodes into controlled chaos. Sensory focus. The packing. This is not the careful folded packing of a vacation. This is the looting of one's own life. Listen to the sounds. The heavy thud of wooden chests being thrown open. The clink, clink, clink of gold coins being swept off tables and poured into leather sacks. Gold is heavy. It has a dense, dead weight. Cleopatra runs to her nursery. Her son, Caesarion, is 3 years old. He is playing with a wooden horse. She grabs him. She holds him too tight. He smells of milk and talcum powder, an innocent smell that clashes violently with the panic in the room. She wraps him in a rough traveler's cloak. The wool is scratchy. He begins to cry. She hushes him, her hand pressing his head against her shoulder. "Quiet," she whispers. "Quiet as a mouse." She moves to her own chambers. She strips off the Roman stola. It is too complicated, too slow. She puts on a simple tunic, dark in color. She grabs her jewelry, not for vanity, but for currency. Emeralds, pearls, heavy gold armbands. She shoves them into a pouch tied at her waist. The metal is cold against her hip. She walks to the window and looks out across the river. The sun is setting, but the city is glowing. Fires have started. Smoke is rising in thick black columns from the forum. You can smell it now. It drifts across the Tiber, overpowering the smell of the gardens. It is the smell of burning wood, burning pitch, and the metallic tang of blood in the imagination. The bridges are the choke points. She knows this. If the conspirators control the bridges, she is trapped. She orders the chariot, not the gilded ceremonial one. A plain cart covered with a canvas tarp. They move to the courtyard. The horses are nervous. They can smell the smoke and the fear of the humans. They stamp their hooves on the cobblestones. Clop, clop, snort. Cleopatra climbs into the back of the cart. She sits on a hard wooden bench. She pulls the canvas flap down. Darkness again, just like the carpet. But this time, she is not entering the palace to win a world. She is fleeing the palace to save her life. The cart lurches forward. The wheels grind against the stone. She holds her son. She feels the vibration of the road traveling up through the wheels, into her spine. Every bump is a shock. They exit the villa gates. They turn onto the road leading away from the city, toward the coast, toward the ships. She listens to the roar of Rome fading behind her, the shouting, the sirens, the chaos. It all begins to recede, but the silence that replaces it is worse. It is the silence of the unknown. Caesar is dead. The shield is gone. The world has broken open. She clutches the pouch of emeralds at her waist. She feels the warmth of her son's breath on her neck. She stares into the dark of the canvas, tenting. Her eyes are dry. She is already planning. She is already calculating the speed of the ships, the winds of the Mediterranean, the loyalty of her garrison in Alexandria. She is a widow. She is a fugitive, but she is still the queen. The cart rattles on into the night, leaving the burning city behind. We have jumped forward in time. 3 years have passed since the chaos of Rome. The world has shifted again. Julius Caesar is dust. The man who now holds the keys to the east is Mark Antony. We are in Tarsus, a dusty, bustling market city near the coast of what is now Turkey. It is a place of heat and commerce. The air usually smells of tanned leather, spices, and the sweat of donkeys. Antony is waiting in the marketplace. He sits on a tribunal, a raised platform of wood. He is a large man, broad-shouldered, with a thick neck, and the rough, hearty laugh of a soldier who likes his wine strong. He has summoned the Queen of Egypt to answer for her actions. He expects her to walk to him, humble and afraid. He expects a political prisoner. He waits. The sun beats down. The crowd murmurs. Then the wind shifts. It happens before you see anything. It is the scent. Stand on the riverbank and inhale. The smell of the muddy river and the dusty town is suddenly wiped away. A breeze comes up from the water, but it does not smell of salt. It smells of roses, millions of them. A thick, cloying sweetness that hangs in the humid air like a physical weight. Underneath the roses, there is something deeper, ambergris, musk, and the distinct metallic tang of expensive incense. It is a cloud of perfume so vast it seems to change the weather. The crowd falls silent. They look toward the river mouth. And then she appears. It is a ship, but it looks like a hallucination. The hull is not painted wood. It is plated in gold. As it moves into the late afternoon sun, the reflection is blinding. It burns on the water like a second sun. But look up. Look at the sails. They are not the usual white canvas or beige linen. They are purple. Pause and think about that color. Tyrian purple. In the ancient world, this dye is worth more than its weight in gold. It is extracted, drop by agonizing drop, from the murex sea snail. To dye a single cloak requires thousands of snails. To dye the massive sails of a royal barge is an act of extravagance so profound it borders on madness. The sails are swollen with the wind, vast sheets of the deepest, richest violet. They ripple softly, and as they do, they waft that intoxicating scent further over the crowd. Now listen. There is no shouting of orders. There is no crack of the whip master. The rhythm of the ship is not set by a drum. It is set by music. From the deck comes the sound of flutes, high, breathy, and sweet. They are accompanied by syrinxes and harps. It is a melody that drifts over the water, hypnotic and strange. And the oars. Look at the oars. They are sheathed in silver. Splash, splash, splash. The silver blades hit the water in perfect time to the flute music. They do not fight the river, they caress it. The sound of the silver entering the water is a clean, crisp chime, followed by the soft rush of the stroke. The water around the hull foams, but even the foam looks white and clean against the gold. The barge glides closer. It does not dock. It hovers just off the bank. Under a canopy of gold-embroidered cloth, Cleopatra is reclining. She is not dressed as a queen today. She is dressed as a goddess. She is Aphrodite, rising from the waves. She wears diaphanous fabrics that float around her like mist. She is surrounded by young boys dressed as cupids, holding large fans of ostrich feathers. They wave the fans slowly, rhythmically, cooling her skin and pushing the perfume toward the shore. Swish, swish, swish. The sight is overwhelming. It is sensory overload. The gold, the purple, the silver, the roses, the music. Antony, sitting on his wooden chair in the dust of the marketplace, is suddenly very small. He is a soldier in dirty armor. She is a celestial event. The crowd begins to run. They abandon Antony. They run to the riverbank, shouting, pointing, inhaling the scented air. Venus has come to revel with Bacchus, they cry. Cleopatra does not stand up. She does not wave. She lies perfectly still. a tableau of absolute composure. She knows that Antony is watching. She knows that he is a man of appetites. He loves spectacle. He loves luxury. He loves the senses. She has not brought him a diplomatic treaty. She has brought him a banquet for his eyes. The ship slows to a halt. The silver oars lift, dripping water that catches the light like diamonds. Silence falls over the river. The only sound is the gentle lapping of the water against the gold hull and the rustle of the purple sails settling. Antony is left alone on his tribunal. He has been outmaneuvered without a word being spoken. He stands up, his heavy boots crunching in the dirt. He walks to the river. He is not angry. He is enchanted. He steps onto the gangplank. He leaves the grit of Rome behind and walks into the perfume cloud. He steps onto the deck. The floor is strewn with rose petals, a foot deep. He sinks into them. The scent rises up, engulfing him. He looks at her. She looks at him. The sun sets, turning the river to blood and fire. The silver oars rest. The flute player takes a breath. This is not a meeting of politicians. It is a seduction of the senses. And in the heavy, perfumed twilight of Tarsus, the Roman general does not stand a chance. We are back in Alexandria, but the mood has shifted entirely. The dry, scholarly silence of the library is gone. The tense, paranoid silence of the viper's nest is gone. The palace is now loud. It vibrates with a manic, restless energy. It is deep night. The air in the great banquet hall is hot and thick. It smells of roasting meat, a heavy, greasy scent that coats the back of the throat. It smells of spilled wine, of sweat, and of expensive perfume fighting a losing battle against the heat of 100 bodies. We are witnessing a meeting of the Amimetaobioi, the Society of Inimitable Livers. It is an exclusive club. The members are Antony, Cleopatra, and a select group of parasites, flatterers, and wits. Their goal is simple: to live a life that no one else can copy, to push pleasure to the point of exhaustion. Look at the table. It is a scene of magnificent waste. A servant walks past carrying a platter. On it is a wild boar, roasted whole, glistening with honey glaze. Behind him, another servant carries another boar, and another. There are 8 boars in total. But look at the guests. There are only 12 people dining. The meat is not for sustenance. It is for timing. Antony likes his meat served at the precise moment of perfection. If he is not ready to eat, the first boar is thrown away. Then the second. They roast 8 so that one might be eaten at the exact second he demands it. It is a grotesque display of power. It is the logic of gods applied to dinner. Antony sits at the head of the table. He is older now, heavier. His face is flushed red with wine. He wears a wreath of ivy on his head, slightly askew. He looks like a fading athlete, a man whose appetites are beginning to outrun his constitution. He laughs, ha ha ha. It is a booming soldier's laugh. It echoes off the marble walls, drowning out the delicate lyre music playing in the corner. He holds a goblet of gold, encrusted with rubies. He drinks deeply, wine spilling down his chin, staining his tunic purple. Cleopatra sits beside him. Watch her transformation. She is no longer the girl in the library. She is a chameleon. She sees that Antony needs a drinking buddy, not a queen. So she becomes one. She is laughing with him. She is matching him drink for drink. She cracks a joke, something bawdy, something sharp, and the table erupts. Her eyes are bright, perhaps too bright. The grimy realism here is the glaze of intoxication. The world is spinning slightly. The edges of the room are soft. She picks up a piece of peacock meat. It is rich, gamey, and strange. She eats it with her fingers, licking the grease from her thumb. She is playing a role. She is the wildest woman in the world because that is what keeps the Roman general fascinated. But underneath the laughter, there is a frantic quality. They are drinking to forget. Rome is angry. Octavian is gathering power in the west. The Parthians are restless in the east. But here, in this room, they are pretending that the party will never end. The meal ends, but the night does not. Antony slams his cup down. "The streets," he roars. This is their favorite game. They leave the golden light of the banquet hall. They go to a side room. They strip off the royal linen and the silk robes. Sensory shift, the texture of disguise. Cleopatra puts on the dress of a servant girl. It is rough wool, itchy and stiff. She ties a simple scarf around her hair, hiding the diadem. Antony puts on the tunic of a slave, coarse, stained, smelling of old storage chests. They slip out of a side door. They are in the streets of Alexandria. The air here is different. It is cooler, but it smells of the city's gut. It smells of the fish markets, of garbage piles, of the salty dampness of the harbour. They walk arm in arm, stumbling slightly. They are just two drunks in the dark. They wander into the Rakotis district, the native quarter. The streets are narrow, winding mazes of mud brick houses. It is dark here, lit only by the occasional oil lamp in a window or the moon overhead. Antony stops at a door. He giggles, a sound that seems too small for his massive frame. He bangs on the door with his fist. Bam, bam, bam. "Open up!" he shouts in Greek, affecting a rough accent. The tax collector is here. Inside, a dog barks. A voice shouts back, cursing them. Antony laughs and runs. Cleopatra runs with him. Feel the sensation of the run. The cobblestones are uneven, slick with dew and filth. Her sandals slap against the stones. Her breath comes in short, sharp gasps. The wool dress chafes her legs. They duck into an alleyway, pressing themselves against the wall to hide. They are panting, holding back laughter. Cleopatra looks at him. In the shadows, stripped of his armor and his titles, he is just a man. He is sweating. He smells of wine and onions. She looks at her own hands. They are dirty from touching the walls of the alley. This is the inimitable life. It is not just luxury, it is the freedom to be no one, to be a ghost in your own city. They walk on. They peer into tavern windows. They see sailors gambling with dice, shouting over cups of cheap beer. They see prostitutes leaning in doorways, their faces painted with white lead. Sometimes they get caught. A shopkeeper throws water on them. A group of rough men shout insults. Antony loves it. He shouts back, trading curses, reveling in the brawl. He comes back to the palace sometimes with a black eye, wearing it like a medal. The night wears on. The alcohol begins to fade, replaced by a dull, throbbing headache. The adrenaline of the prank wears off. They walk back toward the palace. The sky to the east is turning a bruised grey. The birds are starting to sing, a shrill, annoying sound to ears that are ringing. They sneak back in through the side gate. The guards recognize them, of course. They pretend not to. They stand rigid, eyes forward, as the Queen of Egypt and the Lord of the East stumble past in servants' rags. They reach the royal apartments. They collapse onto the bed. The room spins. The ceiling frescoes, painted with stars, seem to rotate. Cleopatra closes her eyes. Her feet hurt. Her head throbs. She smells the stale wine on her breath. Antony is already asleep, snoring heavily. A deep, rattling rumble. She lies awake for a moment. The laughter is gone. The silence returns, and in the silence, the reality comes rushing back. The boars are eaten, the wine is drunk, the night is over, and Rome is still waiting. The sun has set on another day of excess. We are back in the banquet hall. But tonight, the atmosphere is different. The air is not filled with the chaotic noise of drunken revelry or the smell of roasted boars. It is quiet. It is a tense, expectant silence. A wager has been made. Mark Antony, the man who commands the legions of Rome, has challenged the queen. He believes he has seen the limits of luxury. He believes that no meal can cost more than the fortunes he has already spent. Cleopatra has accepted the bet. She claims she will consume a single meal worth 10 million sesterces. Antony looks at the table. It is empty. There are no mountains of food. There are no dancers. There is only a single, small table set before her couch. On that table sits a goblet. Let us focus on the vessel. It is not gold, it is crystal, polished to a terrifying clarity. It catches the torchlight and traps it. Inside the goblet, there is a liquid. It is clear, but it is not water. Lean in, smell it. The scent is sharp. It cuts through the heavy perfumes of the room like a knife. It attacks the mucous membranes of the nose. It is vinegar, but not the weak vinegar of a salad dressing. This is acetum, strong, concentrated, twice-fermented wine turned to acid. It smells of sour grapes and chemical decay. It makes the eyes water just to be near it. Cleopatra is wearing her royal regalia. She is not the servant girl tonight. She is the monarch, and she is wearing her earrings. Look at them. They are famous throughout the known world. They are not fabricated jewels. They are natural wonders. Two massive pearls, pear-shaped, heavy and lustrous. They are the size of large grapes. Think of their history. These pearls were grown in the dark silence of the Indian Ocean, layer by microscopic layer, over decades. They are the calcified tears of oysters. They have been worn by generations of kings. They are worth a province. They are worth an army. Antony watches her. He is smiling, arms crossed over his chest. He thinks she is bluffing. He thinks she will reveal a hidden tray of diamonds or a mountain of rare spices. Cleopatra reaches up. Her fingers are steady. She unhooks one of the heavy pearls from her ear. It sits in her palm, glowing with a soft, milky inner light. It is cool to the touch. It feels smooth, almost oily, the texture of organic perfection. She holds it over the crystal goblet. The room holds its breath. The only sound is the sputtering of a torch on the wall. Hiss. Pop. She drops it. Plink. The sound is small, but in the silence, it rings out like a bell. The heavy jewel hits the bottom of the glass, and then the chemistry begins. This is the grimy realism of wealth destruction. It is not magic, it is a reaction. The calcium carbonate of the pearl meets the acetic acid of the vinegar. Listen. Fzzzt. It is a low, angry sound. A hiss. Tiny bubbles begin to rise from the surface of the pearl, rushing to the top of the liquid. The acid is eating the jewel. The pristine surface of the pearl begins to cloud. The layers of nacre, the mother of pearl, are being stripped away. The history of the object is being dissolved. The water turns milky, then grey. The smell intensifies. A chalky mineral scent mixes with the sharp vinegar. It smells of the sea, but a dead sea. Antony's smile fades. He leans forward. He is watching a fortune vanish. He is watching the price of a fleet of ships turn into sludge. Cleopatra watches the glass. She waits. She is patient. She swirls the liquid gently. The pearl rattles against the glass, smaller now, rougher. Clink, clink. Finally, the reaction slows. The jewel is gone. In the glass, there is only a cloudy, pale slurry. She lifts the goblet. The crystal is cold in her hand. She brings it to her lips. Imagine the taste. It is revolting. It is incredibly sour, acidic enough to burn the throat, mixed with the gritty, chalky residue of the dissolved calcium. It is liquid rock. It is the taste of pure waste. She drinks. She does not flinch. Her throat moves as she swallows the slurry. She drains the glass. She sets it down with a firm clack on the table. She looks at Anthony. Her eyes are watering slightly from the acid, but her expression is stone. "The meal is served," she says, softy. Anthony stares at the empty glass. He looks at her remaining earring, the survivor. He looks at the empty table. He understands now. This is not about money. It is about contempt for money. It is about showing him that she is so far above the material world that she can drink a kingdom just to prove a point. He bows his head. He admits defeat. The silence in the room is absolute. The acid burns in her stomach, a warm, uncomfortable weight. But the victory is sweet. She touches her bare earlobe. It feels light. The pearl is gone. It exists now only as a story and as a part of her. The golden age is dead. The feasts are over. The pearls are gone. We are at sea again. But this is not the lazy, rhythmic Nile. This is the Ionian Sea, and it is angry. Stand on the deck of the Antonias. It is a massive warship, a floating fortress of timber and bronze. But today, even this Leviathan feels small. The sea is heaving. The waves are grey, capped with white foam, rolling in with a sickening, uneven rhythm. Crash, lurch, drop. The first sensation is nausea. The horizon is not stable. It tilts violently, sky, sea, sky, sea. Your stomach rises into your throat, then drops into your boots. The air smells of vomit. The soldiers, men who are brave on land, are green-faced, leaning over the rails, retching into the foam. The noise is deafening. It is not just the wind which is screaming through the rigging. It is the sound of 1,000 ships colliding. Look out at the water. It is a chaotic forest of masts and prows. Octavian's ships are smaller, faster. They buzz around Antony's massive galleys like wasps attacking a bear. Crack! The sound of a ram hitting home. It sounds like a tree snapping in a storm, but louder. It is followed by the scream of tearing wood. Smell the air. It is thick with smoke. Fireships have been launched. Pitch, black, sticky tar is burning. It produces a dense, oily smoke that chokes the lungs and clings to the skin. It smells of burning meat and sulfur. Cleopatra stands on the quarterdeck. She is not wearing silk. She is wearing a cuirass of hardened leather over a tunic. Her hair is bound tight. She grips the railing. Her knuckles are white. The wood is wet with salt spray. The spray is constant, a cold, stinging mist that coats everything. Her lips taste of salt. Her eyes sting. She is watching the battle, but she cannot see it. No one can. It is a mess. Smoke obscures the lines. Flags are lost in the haze. She sees a ship burning in the distance. Is it one of hers? Is it one of Antony's? Is it the enemy? She looks for Antony's flagship. She sees it, a lumbering giant surrounded by 3 of Octavian's Liburnians. They are pecking at him, boarding him. The wind shifts. It hits her face, a strong, steady gust blowing from the north-northwest. It is the Etesian wind. It is blowing away from the battle. It is blowing toward Egypt. She looks at the sails. They are furled, tied down for battle. She looks at the carnage. The water is thick with debris, broken oars, barrels, floating bodies. The sea is turning a murky, brownish red. She makes the calculation. The grimy realism of war is that bravery is often just suicide. Antony is stuck. His ships are too heavy. He is being swarmed. If she stays, she burns. If she stays, she is paraded in Rome in chains. She turns to her captain. Her voice is not a scream. It is a flat, hard command that cuts through the wind. Hoist the sails. The captain stares at her. To hoist sails in the middle of a melee is madness. It is also desertion. Hoist them. The sailors scramble. They are terrified, functioning on instinct. They pull the ropes. The heavy canvas drops. Fwap. Snap. The wind catches the purple sails. The canvas pulls taut with a sound like a cannon shot. The ship lurches forward, heeling over hard to the right. Cleopatra grabs a rope to steady herself. The deck tilts. The ship begins to cut through the water. It gains speed. It plows through the wreckage. Thud, thud, thud. The sound of the hull hitting floating debris. They are leaving the line. Behind them, the battle rages on. The roar of the fighting begins to fade, replaced by the rush of the wind and the hiss of the wake. She does not look back. She looks forward, toward the open sea, toward the south. But then she sees it. A single ship breaks away from the engagement. It is a smaller vessel, fast and desperate. It is chasing her. It is Antony. He has abandoned his flagship. He has abandoned his legions. He has jumped ship to follow her. He climbs aboard her deck an hour later. He does not speak. He does not look at her. He walks past her, his armor clanking, dripping with seawater. He smells of sweat and failure. He walks to the prow of the ship. He sits down on a coil of rope. He puts his head in his hands. The silence returns. But it is not the silence of the library or the desert. It is the silence of shame. The ship surges forward, carried by the wind, fleeing the disaster. The storm is behind them now, but a different kind of storm has begun on the deck. The storm of a man who knows he has thrown the world away for a woman. Cleopatra watches his back. The leather of her armor creaks as she breathes. The sea is vast and empty. The only sound is the wind in the sails, carrying them home to die. We have returned to Alexandria, but the city has changed. The golden light has turned grey. The music has stopped. Walk with me into the palace. The great hall, where the Society of Inimitable Livers once roasted 8 boars for a single dinner, is empty. It is a vast, cavernous space. The sensory experience here is one of abandonment. Listen. Hollow, hollow, hollow. Your footsteps echo against the marble. There are no tapestries to absorb the sound. They have been taken down, packed away, or sold to pay the soldiers. The furniture is covered in white linen sheets. They look like ghosts standing in formation. Dust is settling. In the shafts of light coming from the high windows, you can see it. Millions of tiny particles suspended in the stagnant air. It covers the polished floors in a fine grey film. If you run your finger along a table, it leaves a streak. The smell of roast meat and perfume is gone. Now the palace smells of stone and old wax. It smells of a house that is waiting for its owners to die. Mark Antony is gone. He has retreated to a small tower he built on a pier in the harbour. He calls it the Timonium. He lives there alone, staring at the sea, refusing to speak to anyone. He is mourning his own life while he is still living it, but Cleopatra is not mourning. She is working. We must go down. We leave the airy heights of the royal apartments. We descend a spiral staircase of rough granite. The air gets cooler, it gets damper. The smell changes. It becomes earthy, metallic, and foul. It is the smell of the Nile mud seeping through the foundations. It is the smell of fear. We are in the prison block beneath the palace. Here the light comes from torches that burn with a low, sputtering blue flame. The walls are wet. Condensation runs down the stone in slow, black tears. Cleopatra is standing at a workbench. She is wearing a simple tunic, her hair tied back. Her face is gaunt. The stress of the last year has stripped the softness from her features, leaving only the sharp angles of her skull. She looks like a priestess of a dark god. She is surrounded by jars, clay pots, glass vials, dried bundles of herbs. She is searching for a door. She knows Octavian is coming. She knows she cannot win on the battlefield. So she is looking for a victory over pain. She is looking for the perfect death. This is not a story of cruelty. It is a story of science. It is grim, clinical research. Behind the bars of the cells, there are men. They are prisoners of war, criminals condemned to death. Their fate is sealed. Only the method is in question. They are the test subjects. Cleopatra picks up a vial. It contains a dark, viscous liquid. It is a distilment of henbane. She nods to a guard. He brings a prisoner forward. The man is terrified, sweating. The smell of his sweat, acrid and sour, fills the small space. She hands him the cup. She watches. This is the grimy realism of the laboratory. She observes the effects. She does not look away. She watches the man's eyes dilate. She watches his muscles seize. She listens to his breathing. Rasp. Rattle. Silence. She shakes her head. Too violent. Too loud. A queen cannot die twitching on the floor. She writes a note on a piece of papyrus. The scratching of her pen is the only sound in the dungeon. Scritch, scratch. Henbane. Unsuitable. She tries again. She selects a different jar. This one holds a clear liquid. Hemlock. The philosopher's poison. Another prisoner. She watches. The effect is different. The coldness starts in the feet and moves up. The man loses the ability to move his legs, then his arms. It is a slow paralysis, but she sees the panic in his eyes. His mind is awake while his body turns to stone. He is trapped in a corpse that is still breathing. She frowns. Too slow, too terrifying. To die like that is to be buried alive in one's own skin. She writes again. Scritch, scratch. Hemlock preserves consciousness too long. Days pass like this. The palace above is silent, gathering dust. The dungeon below is a factory of death. She tries belladonna. She tries strychnine. She mixes compounds. She is a chemist of the soul, trying to find the formula that separates the spirit from the body without tearing the fabric. And then she turns to the baskets. They are wicker baskets, woven from river reeds. They sit in the corner, innocuous, looking like they might hold figs or dates. But listen. Hiss. A dry, sandy sound. The sound of scales rubbing against wicker. She approaches the basket. She lifts the lid with a long metal hook. Inside, coiled in the darkness, is a snake. It is an Egyptian cobra. The uraeus, the symbol of royalty. The snake that sits on the crown of the pharaohs to spit fire at their enemies. She does not recoil. She looks at it with a strange affection. She orders the test. The snake strikes the prisoner. It is fast, a blur of motion. Then she watches. There is no screaming. There is no violent convulsion. The man sits down. He looks tired. His eyelids droop. A heaviness settles over him. It looks like the onset of a deep, heavy nap. His breathing slows, in, out, in. He slumps forward. He is asleep. And then he simply stops. It is quiet. It is dignified. It is almost gentle. The venom acts as a narcotic. It shuts down the nervous system like a lamp being blown out. Cleopatra exhales. The tension in her shoulders releases. She has found it. She looks at the snake in the basket. It is not a monster. It is a key. It is the key to the final door. It is the guarantee that she will never walk in chains in a Roman triumph. She will not be jeered at by the mob. She replaces the lid of the basket. Thump. She picks up her lamp. She turns away from the cells, leaving the dead to be carried away by the guards. She walks back up the spiral stairs. The air grows lighter, less metallic. She emerges back into the silent palace. She walks through the empty halls, past the covered furniture. She walks to the window and looks out at the sea. The wind is blowing from the north. The Roman fleet is getting closer. She can feel them, but she is no longer afraid. She has the answer sitting in a wicker basket in the dark. She has reclaimed control. The silence of the palace is no longer hollow. It is expectant. It is the silence of a stage before the final curtain falls. She touches her arm, the spot where the bite will eventually come. She traces the vein with her finger. She is ready. This is the end of the road. The journey that began in the dry silence of the library and sailed down the golden Nile finds its conclusion here, in a room built of stone and sorrow. We are in the mausoleum. It is a fortress tomb Cleopatra built for herself next to the temple of Isis. There are no doors on the ground level. To enter, one must be hoisted up to a high window. She has locked herself in with her two most loyal handmaidens, Iris and Charmian. The air here is heavy. It does not smell of the sea anymore. It smells of enclosed spaces. It smells of dressed stone, of cedar dust, and of the heavy resinous scent of myrrh. It is the smell of a place that is waiting to be sealed forever. The silence is broken by a sound from outside. Not the roar of an army, but a desperate, singular cry. Mark Antony is below. He has fallen on his sword, but the Roman steel missed his heart. He is dying, but slowly. He is begging to be brought to her. Cleopatra leans out of the high window. The sun is blindingly bright against the white limestone, but she does not feel the heat. She sees him. His tunic is soaked in dark, arterial red. What follows is not a scene of romance, but of grueling physical struggle. She lowers the ropes. They are rough hemp ropes used for hauling stone blocks. She and her two women pull, feel the friction. The ropes bite into the soft skin of her palms. Heave. Pause. Heave. Antony is a heavy man, dead weight in the most literal sense. Her muscles scream. Her breath comes in ragged, tearing gasps. The sweat runs into her eyes, stinging. They drag him over the sill of the window. The sensory shift is immediate and violent. The smell of fresh blood fills the small stone chamber. It is a metallic copper scent, warm and overwhelming. It mixes with the cedar oil, creating a nauseating perfume of tragedy. She lays him on her couch. The linen sheets, once pristine white, turn red. She touches his face. His skin is clammy, grey, and cooling rapidly. She wipes the blood from his mouth. She speaks to him, but her voice is a whisper, lost in the echoing stone. He dies. The moment he passes, the room changes. The frantic energy of the struggle evaporates, leaving behind a silence so profound it feels like pressure in the ears. The only sound is the dripping of blood onto the stone floor. Drip, drip, drip. Time blurs. The Romans arrive. Octavian enters the city, but for Cleopatra, the world has shrunk to the four walls of this tomb. She is captured, but she is not defeated. She is allowed to prepare for her end. She bathes. Imagine the water. It is warm, scented with oils. It washes away the dried blood, the dust of the siege, the sweat of the struggle. She scrubs her skin until it glows. She is preparing her body not for sleep, but for eternity. She eats a final meal. A basket of figs is brought to her. Focus on the basket. It is made of woven palm leaves. It is rustic and simple. The figs are dark purple, bursting with ripeness. They smell sweet, earthy, and rich. It is the smell of the fertile Nile mud, the smell of life. She picks up a fig. The skin is soft, yielding to her touch. She eats it. The sweetness explodes in her mouth, a final reminder of the pleasures of the world she is leaving. But beneath the figs, there is a sound. Rustle. It is faint, like dry leaves shifting in a breeze. She moves the fruit aside. There, coiled in the darkness of the wicker, is the answer. The asp, the Egyptian cobra. It is not a monster. In the dim light of the tomb, it looks like a piece of living jewelry. Its scales are dry and cool. Their pattern is a mesmerizing geometry of brown and gold. The room is very quiet now. The handmaidens are weeping softly in the corner, but Cleopatra is calm. This is the grimy realism of suicide. It is not a panic, but a procedure. She arranges her robes. She wears the royal linen, white and crisp. She places the diadem on her head. The gold is heavy on her brow, a familiar weight. She lies down on the golden couch. She reaches into the basket. She feels the cool, smooth coils of the snake. It does not want to attack. It wants to sleep. She disturbs it. She teases it. The strike is fast. Snap. It is not a crushing pain. It is a sharp pinch, like the prick of a thorn. 2 small drops of blood appear on her arm. She lies back. She waits. The venom of the cobra is a neurotoxin. It does not cause agony. It causes shutting down. Feel the sensation spreading. It starts at the site of the bite, a warmth, a numbness spreading up her arm. It feels heavy. Her hand feels like it belongs to a statue. The numbness moves to her chest. Her breathing slows. Inhale. Exhale. The stone ceiling above her begins to blur. The sharp edges of the room soften. The smell of the cedar and the blood fades, replaced by a grey, fuzzy nothingness. She tries to move her fingers. They do not respond. The connection between will and flesh has been severed. She is not afraid. The library, the carpet, the golden barge, the pearls, the wars, they all drift away like smoke. She hears the sound of the sea one last time. Not the angry ocean of Actium, but the rhythmic, hypnotic pulse of the Alexandria harbour. Wash, hush, wash, hush. Her eyelids are too heavy to keep open. She closes them. The darkness is not black. It is a deep velvet purple, the colour of her sails. Her heart gives a final, slow beat, thump, and then silence. The room is still. The figs smell sweet. The snake coils back into the warmth of the basket. The Queen of Kings is stone. Outside, the waves hit the lighthouse. The sun sets over Egypt, and the story finally sleeps.